Hi, I'm John. I'm from A&E Construction and you're watching Build with A&E. Today we're going to show you how to plaster a wall. So there's a few steps to it. It's quite easy once you know how to do it, but a lot of people will try and fail, so I'm going to try and give you a few tips and tricks today on how to get it done nice and professional. So when skimming a wall, always work from left to right and start from top to bottom. Okay, so we'd skim from there, work our way across, back across, like that, just in a nice motion all the way across the wall. I'll show you step by step as we go anyway. Always select the right plaster for the application that you're using. Today we're going to be using thistle board finish, which, as the name suggests, is useful for skimming on plasterboards. There's many of the types. There's multi-finish, which can be used for a lot of different backgrounds. For example, if you're over skimming on old walls or anything like that, or over a render or a bonding coat or anything like that. Just obviously check with the merchants, read the back of the bag and make sure you're using the right stuff for the job that you're doing. So I'll get some plaster mixed up and then we'll start skimming and I'll talk you through it as I'm doing it. So the plaster's mixed up, now you need your hawk and your trowel. Always make sure you wet them off first, stop any of the material sticking, drying it too quick because you'll end up little lumps in your skim. So once they're nice and wet, go over to your bucket of plaster, prime it up a little bit, just like so. You do that to stop the plaster slipping straight off. If you've got a wet hawk and wet trowel, as soon as you put your plaster on, you go to do that, it will just fall on the floor. So always prime it first like that. If you're just starting out, you probably only want a little bit at a time on your hawk. You want to try and save as much and get as much on the wall instead of the floor as you can. Like I mentioned before, always start left to right, top to bottom. So we'll always go to the top left corner, get some on your trowel and get it in. The key with plastering is to apply in different directions. If you keep applying the plaster in the same direction, you'll end up with loads of ridges and lines all over it. You'll also end up with something called tiger stripes, which is where all the plaster drags, so it's going to look really unsightly and it's not the finish that you're after. So apply from left to right, like I said, top to bottom. Make sure that you're filling everything. At this stage, you're not looking for a perfect finish. You're applying a wet plaster to the wall, so it's not going to be smooth, it's not going to be too pretty. You're literally just getting this first coat in, get it relatively flat, but not, you know, don't spend too much time fiddling with it. Get it on, and there you go. See, even that, it doesn't need to be that flat at all, but a bit more. Like I said, moving from left to right, so I've got as far as I can reach, so I now move over. I now can reach that height from the floor, so just do the high bits, and then move across. Right up to the top corner, and when you get to the bead, make sure that you work with the bead, down the bead like that. If you work into the bead like this all the time, all that's going to happen is it's going to build up there, you're going to end up with a massive bulge down the side of the bead. So you can squeeze it in to start with, just to make sure the plaster's in there, but then when you actually get to flattening like this, go straight down the bead like that, and there you go, then it's filled in nicely. Another bit there. Filled in nicely, but it's flat. That's the main thing. You don't want any bulges anywhere because it's going to make your life difficult further down the line. Right, that's the top on. So for my first coat, I always like to apply across the wall like this. Yeah, travelling again, like I say, from left to right, across. And then when I'm flattening, I'll go up and down. And then when my second coat, I'll go up and down. Then when I'm flattening that coat, I'll go across. It's important to use a technique called cross troweling. So you make sure that you're always going across, up and down, left and right. Save any drag lines, any tiger striping, anything like that. And it also makes sure it's coated evenly. Fills in any imperfections easier. Once you've used the plaster a bit, you'll get used to the feel of what sort of angle you should be holding your trowel at. You want to keep it relatively flat to the wall, but obviously once you put the plaster on like this, you then need to smudge that out across the wall. Like so, and then slowly, see how the angle of the trowel gets flatter? So you're putting it on nice and even like that, see? Bit of an angle, getting flatter. That way you smooth it out nicely. Just make sure it's flat in that corner as well, nice and square. A good way to do it is to go up your trowel like that, in the corner. And then you know then that's square, otherwise you might end up with a bit of a ramp in the corner, which you do not want. Just going to quickly knock that line off. Make sure it's nice and even as you put it on. Like I say, doesn't need to look too pretty at this stage, just even. You know, make sure you can't see any board through the skim or anything like that. Got to have a good coating on it. You're aiming for about 2mm thickness with your first coat. Any more than that, you're going to have problems with ripples. Any less than that, you'll hear this noise. Like a scraping, like a gritty sort of noise. If you can hear that, you're not putting enough on. Like I said, fill in your bead, cross your bead like that, and straight up it. Come straight up on the bottom. Right, so touch more on my hook. And there you go, the first coat is on. Just a little tip as well, obviously when your skirtings go on, you need to make sure the wall's flat because otherwise your skirting's going to rock. What will happen is, you'll end up with bits like this, the little snots that are across the bottom. So just a bit of a tip, always get your trowel on every pass that you go and just run it straight across the bottom, flat like that. That way then you know this area is going to be perfectly flat for when you stick your skirting onto it, so you're going to have no issues, you're not going to have to chip any of the plaster away or anything like that. There you go, it's the first coat done. Right, our first coat's on, now it's time to flatten. Always important that you flatten between coats, otherwise you're going to end up causing yourself a nightmare. There's going to be loads of bumps all over the place. If it dries a bit too much and you're trying to put your second coat on over a bumpy wall like this, it's not going to turn out well. So always make sure that you flatten. I'm using the Ultraflex trowel, which is a bigger trowel, yeah, just for flattening off. It's a new trowel, so it hasn't got an edge on it yet, so it's not really much good for finishing or anything like that. So I'm just breaking it in gently by doing some flattening coats. Like before, make sure it's wet so your plaster doesn't stick to it. So before we apply the plaster across the wall, and now we're going to flatten up and down the wall. Like I mentioned, cross troweling. Don't go too mad, nothing too crazy. All you're doing in this stage is just knocking the lines off. Literally just straight over like that. See, I'm not applying much pressure. I'm keeping the trowel really flat as well. If you apply too much of an angle on the trowel, all that's going to happen is it's going to pull the plaster off. You do not want that at all. Literally just nice and flat, nice and smooth, there you go. Again, you're not looking to achieve a paint finish now. Simply flattening between the coats just to make your second coat take easier. Yeah, and to make sure that you've got less work when you're applying your second coat. Don't go too mad with it, just go over it, nice and gentle. You might need to apply a little bit of pressure in some areas if it has dried in a bit too much. Make sure your bead's full. Your bead is a place where it tends to get quite a few hollows, so just make sure you keep it full of skim. If you've got a little bit of excess on there like that, just run it down the bead, work it in. There you go. Like I mentioned before, you're always working left to right, top to bottom. I'll show you exactly why soon, but generally as a rule that's why you do it, because when you're troweling up, so you end up with this line, that's at the heel of the trowel, so as you do that, when you come across for your next stroke, you'll cover it, and so on and so on. You'll also be pushing the fat along the wall later as well, which I'll show you what that means later when we get to that stage. Just pull your corners out like this. Again, keeping your trowel flat, just taking the lines off. It's very important you don't mess around with it too much, because you're going to end up dragging the plaster, pulling it off, anything like that, you don't want. That's one of the major problems with plastering, is people play around with it too much, and it causes you nothing but issues. Your mum told you not to play around with it too much for a reason. She was obviously on about plastering. So we applied the first coat, we flattened it off, now it's time for the second coat. Make sure you don't wait too long for the first coat to dry. The idea of the second coat is to take out any imperfections, fill in any hollows, but also to bond with the first coat. If you let this first coat dry, what's going to happen is the second coat that's going to go on isn't going to form part of this. You want them both to unify and form one approximately 3 to 4 mil thick coat of plaster. It's more durable and it will give you a much better finish. So like I said before, hawk and trowel, wet them up and then prime them with a bit of skim. Yeah, just to stop it sliding straight off. Just like so. Load your hawk up. So at this stage, your edges are going to be starting to dry. If you notice across here, yeah, you've got some little bits which are sticking out. They're called your snots. It's important to get them taken off because what will happen is when you come to apply your second coat now, they'll just grab and they'll drag down the wall, dragging your new plaster, and you don't want that. It's not easy. You can get over it because obviously the plaster's still wet, but you don't want it. It saves yourself the hassle. Just clean the snots off as you go, and that's it. As you may have noticed, I'm not using my trowel to do this. I'm actually using a small tool. A lot of plasterers, I'm sure I'll get some bad comments about this, but this is the way I was taught. It's nice and easy. You can just clean it off, wipe it off, put it in your pocket. A lot of plasterers just use the edge of their trowel, which I don't like to do. Purely, well, for a lot of reasons. One reason, it can easily cut the tape, which you want to stop that corner cracking. If you cut it, it's basically void, it doesn't do anything. Small tool, you can eliminate that. And also, you're going to get snots all over your trowel, you've got to then clean that off. Much easier just to have this, you can just wipe it off, stick it in your pocket, it's out of the way. That's what I prefer. You may prefer different, but you know, each their own. So, with this, again, left to right, always left to right. Start in the top left corner, and the second coat is no different. You're not applying as thick a coat in your second coat because like I mentioned before, all you're doing is trying to fill in the imperfections and to flatten the wall out further. See, I've got a hollow there. I don't know if you can see that. Just here, there's a bit of a hollow. So all I do, squeeze them in, go over it and it's gone, just like that. Again, not working it too much, not going over it too much. This coat, however, you are trying to get a bit flatter than you were with your first coat, because at this stage now, you need to be thinking about the finishing stages. Your first coat is literally to get something on the wall to give you a nice base to work from. This second coat is obviously going to form the top, the finished article. So you need to make sure that it's relatively smooth, relatively flat. You know, it's not going to be perfect because again, it's a wet material, so it's not going to be perfectly smooth. It's not going to happen. So don't worry too much, but just try and keep it as neat as you can. There we go. Get a bit more plaster. Check for your snots again. Get them away from your wall. Off the bead as well. You tend to get quite a few on the bead. Load up your trowel. Again, with the trowel angle, you know, you're trying to slowly flatten it out because you're trying to spread that plaster evenly down your wall. Okay, up to the bead again, make sure that you're going with the bead. There we go, the bead's filled in nicely. Okay, that's the top done, move on to the bottom. Okay, again, snots in the corner. The way I always do it is cut into the plaster first, and then across the plaster like that. That way you kind of seal the corner back in. Beautiful, just like that. Again, starting from the left, always left to right. Fill in those corners. Make sure you squeeze the plaster in there, but you're also trying not to ramp the plaster up in the corner. Got to try and maintain the flatness of the wall all the way across it, including in the corners. So just to make sure, we're going to go up the corner like this, flat trowel. There you go. That way, then you know you've got no ramp in the corner then. Okay. When you're doing this, now we're going to apply big motion up and down the wall all the way across. So you want to load your trowel up about halfway in the wall, squeeze it in, squeeze it back down. Bit of a hollow there. Again, it doesn't matter if there's some lines on it, it's fine, but obviously try and keep them to a minimum. When you're coming up, make sure you cover the bottom of where your down stroke was. See, I've come down to here with this, and when I'm coming up, I'm covering over. That way you make sure you're going to get no hollows through the middle of the wall either. Hollow there. So as a general rule of thumb, with your plaster on your second coat, you'll pretty much need about a third of the amount you need for your first coat. Providing the plaster hasn't dried off too much and you get it at the right time, that's about what you'll need. So if you use a bag of plaster for the first coat, you'll probably use about a third for the second. Again, this depends on what you're skimming. If you're skimming onto board, that's pretty much, pretty accurate. But if you're over skimming on some uneven walls, then you might need more than that. There we go, second coat's on. Crack on with the next wall. So, now we're on to flattening the second coat. As always, wet your trowel off. So, as before, small tool, or whatever you prefer to use, trowel, whatever. Get your snots off, cut into the plaster first. This way it just stops anything dragging in the plaster. Also keeps your corners nice and neat, because at this stage now you want to be thinking about the finished product, so everything you do, you're aiming towards a good finish now, so keep those corners nice and tidy. It saves you work at the end when you're doing your final trowel. This is putting in nicely. Start to dry off. Again, like I said before, don't play with it too much, because what you'll end up doing is getting loads of drag marks in it. Tiger stripes is then called. But at the same time, you want to make sure it's it's flat, it's pretty smooth. You're trying to get out any imperfections now. Again, keep those corners neat. I've got a bit of tape there that's ripped off. I've got to be careful. Pull that out. Try not to damage too much. Keeping your trowel nice and flat. You can't have it too flat, like fully flat, otherwise you'll end up just digging into the plaster. Just a small angle on it, shallow angle. Down like that. You see how I'm going over what I've pulled up from the first coat, so I'm always crossing over that, otherwise you're going to end up with big ridges in the middle. Any imperfections like that, just fill them in with a bit of fat off your trowel, straight over. So you've got a bit of a hollow there, fill that in. Knots off. Run down the bead as well. So the trowel I'm using here is a Tyzac trowel. There's a lot of different trowels on the market. This is just what I've been taught with. It's a UK made trowel using Sheffield steel. The most popular one's a Marshalltown, but there are a lot of other ones out there. Refiner, Ox do them as well. There's loads out there. If you're a DIYer, probably not worth spending loads of money on a trowel. But if you're going to be doing quite a lot of it, it's worth the investment. You know, it can range from anything from sort of £30 to £60 depending on what you're getting. But as with any tool, you get what you pay for. So it's worth the investment. You need to make sure you've got a good edge on the trowel as well. It's razor sharp this is. I've had this for probably, what, 8 years now. You know, as you can see, it's worn quite a lot. So that's just literally through use. But it's important to get a razor sharp edge on it. That way it finishes nicely. If you haven't got a good edge on your trowel, you're not going to get a nice finish at the end of the job. One way you can achieve it with a new trowel is by literally sharpening it with a sharpening stone or something like that. You do need a good edge, like I say, to finish. The majority of trowels say that they come pre-worn, but they're not. There's not a good enough edge like that. I mean, you can hear how sharp that is. So, got to be a good sharp edge on it. So again, like you've seen, I've got my snots off, making sure this corner is nice and neat. Get those ridges out. If the plaster's pulling in nicely as it is, you can apply a fair bit of pressure. So long as you're keeping your trowel flat, you're not going to take any of the skim away. If you do your trowel like this, you know, if you've got too much of an angle on it, you're going to take the plaster off the wall, you're going to end up back to your first coat. It's not good, it's not what you want to do. Nice and flat. That way you can apply the pressure you need. There you go. Keep your bottom flat like we said before as well, with your skirting. We'll also cross trowel this as well, like I mentioned. It's important to go across, work the plaster in different directions. So once I've flattened it one way, I'll go across and flatten it another as well. Snots off the bead. Always keep your bead nice and clean. Keep the bead filled in. Like I said before, you know, it's because the bead tends to be on the edge of a board, it will dry out a lot quicker here, which in turn will pull the plaster, because it pulls the plaster in quicker, it's going to give you more hollows. So you need to make sure that you keep that bead filled at all times, every time you go over it. There you go. Put it across the bottom again as well if you need to, just to make sure there's no curls or snots or anything like that on the bottom. There you go. Right then, so now you've seen us doing all the flattening stages, first and second coat, now we're on to the finishing trowel. So you're going to need a big brush like this, yeah, called a paddle brush, because you need to apply water to the plaster now, and also a small brush like this, known as a tickler. We use this for the corners, just to make the corners nice and perfect and smooth, ready for painting. As we used our tickler before, and we've kept our edges nice and tidy, there's pretty much no need to use it now because, like I say, the corners are pretty good. So just apply your water with your brush, like so, bit of a flick into the corner, run your trowel across like this, and there you go, your edge is pretty good as it is. So you don't really need to use your small tool. There might be the odd bit that you need to, just where a bit of fat to build up or something, but apart from that, you're fine. Right, so I've applied the water, yeah, and I'm troweling over it now. As you can see, the water's coming out, slightly coloured like this, yeah, this is known as fat. So what you're doing now is trying to get the fat out, just so it gives you a nice smooth finish. I don't know if you can see the difference in textures between this and the stuff that I haven't troweled over. This is also another reason why you work from left to right, because of your fat. If you work from another direction, your fat's going to be left behind, so you're always working left to right there, your fat comes out like that, and then you trowel it across again, and so on and so on. What I probably should have mentioned before is, always wait until your plaster's pretty much gone off. You can see that I'm touching the plaster, yeah, and I'm not leaving any marks on it. That's when you know it's ready to trowel it. If it leaves a mark, leave it. Yeah, don't go back to it any sooner, because all you're going to do is take loads of fat out and it's not going to be a good finish at all. You're going to be left with a rubbish wall. You don't want to do that. You've put all this effort into it. Just wait. It's worth waiting. Use your tickler. Just down the corners. All you're doing here is just sealing the corners in. Yeah? So when you come to paint it, you aren't going to mess around with caulking or filling or anything like that. The whole point of having a freshly plastered wall is so you can literally just paint straight over it. Just make sure there's no holes or anything like that. See what I've done there? Made a hole in it. Make sure you squeeze the plaster back in. Don't try and fill that with fat because you'll see it a mile off. Bit of a tip, as you're going through the different stages of flattening, at the end of it, at the end of each stage, just save a bit of the plaster on the edge of a bucket. Yeah, because this will have gone off nicely. Some of the stuff at the bottom, there we go. And you can use that then for any bits like that. If you do ever dig in or anything, or there's a bit that needs filling, just squeeze it in, leave it a bit proud for now, and then when you come to trowel over it, you'll take the excess off and you'll never know. So, straight across with some water. Use the toe of your trowel, which is this end that you can see I'm using now, that's the toe. Straight across, there you go. No need to get your snots off, because there's nothing there. Apply a bit more water. So I'm not drenching the wall, there's enough on there. The more you do it, the more you'll realise exactly how much you need. Just work your fat back in. The bee's going to need some more water as well. It definitely absorbs a lot more around there because it's the edge of the board, so you tend to have some exposed plasterboard underneath it. Down the bead, there we go. Beautiful. Got a nice clean edge to work with when you come to decorate. If you do start getting a lot of fat on the trowel, just brush it off. No point in saving that, it's too wet to do anything with, so there you go, back with a clean trowel. Shake the excess off, make sure your tickler's alright, clean. Down the corner, toe down it. Keep your trowel pretty flat with your toe in because you can tend to rip the plaster off the wall if you do. If you're too sharp with the angle. Okay, and then pull your corner out. When you're troweling up as well in your final trowel, you will have a bit more of an angle than when you're flattening. Because the plaster's gone off a bit more, you can get away with that, and that's what gives you that good smooth finish, and that's why it's important to have a sharp trowel. If you have a blunt trowel when you're doing this, all it's going to do is just rip the plaster. Okay, so we pulled a corner out there. As you can see, it's pretty good, but still run your tickler down it just to seal it in nicely. So guys, you've seen pretty much everything now. You've seen us do the first and second coat, flatten in between. You've seen us doing the final trowel, but now there's a final trowel. It's the cross trowel. So what we're going to do is make sure this bee is nice and clean. I'm using my trowel, so I've got my brush. There you go, let's clean. Just like that, make sure your bee's clean. You don't want to drag anything through your plaster, especially at this stage now, because as you can see, it's finished, it's smooth, it's pretty much where you want it to be. All we're going to do is like a final sealing trowel now, just to seal the plaster in. So I'm going to apply some water like this across the wall. Not massive amounts, just a little bit, just to cover it. That'll do for now, because as we trowel across, you'll see the water will just travel naturally down. So we're going across like this, just as high as you can reach. Doesn't have to be right to the top. Down like that. See how the water's just running straight down now? All we're doing is just sealing this wall in nicely. And once we've done this, we'll then just give it a quick dry trowel, which I'll show you what that is in a second. It's just taking out any final imperfections, just to give you that nice, perfect smooth finish that you're after. Your decorator will thank you for this. If you're plastering, a wall that hasn't got a bead on the end, you can cross trowel it that way, and then when you get to that side, go back that way. But all that'll end up happening here is I'll end up digging my trowel in on the bead, so I'm just going one way for now. As we're getting down towards the bottom, I'm trying to lose the fat. Found a bit of an imperfection there. So what I'll do is just use the toe of my trowel just to work it back in, get a little bit of wet fat on it. There you go. It's gone. Yeah, we're trying to just use the fat now instead of adding water as you get down towards the bottom. Otherwise you're going to end up with a big fat line at the bottom. See the angle of my trowel, I'm pretty much cutting across the plaster now. And then straight at the bead, just take any excess fat off that. There you go, right, so that's your cross trowel complete. And now, what we're going to do, clean off the trowel completely. Get most of the water out. This is what's known as the dry trowel. So you want just a damp, just moist, and that's fine. And then what we're doing now is taking any little knobbles off or anything like that. So we're just going to go straight up it. Like so. If you do see any fat appearing on your trowel, just brush straight off like that. There you go. This is going to give it that glass smooth finish. If you touch it, when you run your hand over it, it will feel so smooth. If you're working in the client's house, you know, it just gives it that extra wow factor. Even if it's your own house, you know, it's nice just to have that extra finish on it. Also takes off any fat that you might have left when you were cross troweling. And there you go. Perfect. That's how you do it. So I've taught you through the whole process now. You should be able to go away from this video and plaster a wall with ease. Probably not with ease, it might take a bit of time. I've been doing this for probably over 12 years now, so you know, you'll get there. You've got the basic foundations, you just need to work with it, keep practicing. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. There's going to be plenty more where that came from. Any comments, just leave them in the box below and we'll get back to you. Thanks, I've been John, take care, see you next time.